Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Journey into Comics, a podcast about comic books, video games, movies, television, and everything nerd, with your hosts, Nate Phillips, Brandon Stone, and Shuddy Boy.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Hey everybody, welcome. It's another episode of Journey into Comics. I'm your host, Nate Phillips. We've got a special one today. We've actually got a special guest that we're going to be interviewing, talking to, and discussing his comic book that's going to be coming out that he's getting kickstarted right now. I guess Kickstarter. What's the right way to say that? I'm not sure. It's on Kickstarter. That's what I'll say. He has a Kickstarter for his comic. That's all we'll say for right now. So he'll be joining us shortly. I want to kind of leave a little bit of mystery for now. Even though if you read the title of the episode, you probably know or have an idea, or if you read the synopsis of the episode, you understand who's coming on right now. But for the listener who just jumped in and wants just to listen, I'm keeping this shit as close to a surprise as possible. But anyways, I digress. Let's talk about some real news. Let's talk about what happened on August 30th, which to me was just yesterday. To you, it could be yesterday. It could be in the future, or in the past, rather. Way in the past. Months. Years even. Okay? So anyways, here's the deal. Wes Craven, one of my favorite directors, passed away at the age of 76. He is known for movies like Scream and A Nightmare on Elm Street. He had brain cancer, and he lost his battle, and that's so sad and unfortunate. I mean, he put up a great fight, 76 years old, man. 3/4 of a century. That's a long fucking time. I just passed the first quarter of my life, and it's like Jesus. I've got 50 plus left. I hope. I really do hope at least 50 plus. So anyways, Wes Craven's phenomenal, and it really bums me out that we lost a legend. And the sad truth is there are so many more legends that are ultimately, the clock is ticking for everybody. I think that's the sad truth. But I don't believe in coincidence. I think that there is no such thing as coincidence. I do believe that everything does happen for a reason. Case in point. Here's the deal. On Thursday, I invited Anthony over, and he came and hung out. And we were watching TV and playing video games and being nerdy and whatever and talking about comics and being in the comic room and all of these things. And went in the living room, and he said, "What do you want to watch?" And I said, "I don't know, man. Is that Never Sleep Again documentary about Nightmare on Elm Street, is it still on Netflix?" And he said, "Yeah, the 4-hour one. It's totally on Netflix. We should watch it." And I was like, "Well, yeah, we started it like a long time ago when I was over at your house, and you kept asking me if I thought it was cool, which I was totally enthralled with the documentary, but we moved on and did other things, so I never got to finish it." And that was like a year ago or so. So here we are, 2015. It's Thursday, which was the 28th, 27th, whatever. That doesn't matter. I digress. And I'm like, we should watch this documentary. So we start watching the documentary. I go and I make some delicious turkey burgers, and we eat the burgers and we watch the documentary. And then Anthony's like, "Man, I'm getting pretty exhausted. I need to go home and sleep." And I'm like, "All right, bro. Just text me when you get home. Let me know. Let me know you're safe." That's just how I do with everybody. I want to make sure everybody gets where they're going safely. Especially like you right now, if you're listening to this in a vehicle, please pay attention to the road and be very safe about what you're doing. Anyways, so he takes off, and I continue to watch the documentary, and it's, like I said, it's 4 hours long, so it's super fucking long, and it's awesome, It's great. It goes through every single movie. And then 4 days later, Wes Craven, who I had just watched and was like, man, what a fucking legend in the game. Like, what a creative mind. He knew what kind of stories he wanted to tell with Freddy, and when they ruined it, and he had no other way. I guess maybe they didn't ruin the idea of Freddy. I know they definitely took a lot of different weird routes here and there. But ultimately, when they said, Wes Craven, dude, come back and do another Nightmare on Elm Street movie. And he said, okay, well, I can't fuck with all the shit you guys have put in there. So what's a different take? And he wrote Wes Craven's New Nightmare, which was about the actors and him as a director being real people and filming and stuff, and Freddy actually becoming an entity outside of movies and becoming a real world thing that is attacking them in their dreams and whatnot. And it's super creative and super dark. I loved it. Freddy had a really dark, cool, new look in that movie. Anyways, so it's just weird to me that you watch this documentary and they go through all these things, and then 4 days later, like, Wes Craven dies. Like, really? Does that really have to happen? Come on now. You know, I strongly believe in morphic fields. And maybe that was, maybe there are a handful of people or more, I don't know, that watched a Nightmare on Elm Street movie on Thursday, or were watching, the Never Sleep Again documentary on Netflix. And then he went, and I just, it's funny because he created a character that transcended movies. He created Freddy Krueger, who haunts you in your nightmares, and that goes outside of movies. You show a kid now the original Nightmare on Elm Street, shit in their pants, man, literally. That shit was scary for the time, and even now. So, we lose a legend, but he transcended everything. And the crazy thing is, he will live forever. Wes Craven will always be remembered. He is just too great, He's just too much of a impact on culture. He had a massive cultural impact. So to Wes Craven and his family, just, Wes, we miss you already, man, and we loved everything you did for us fans. And I really do wish that at some point in my life I would have been at a place and been able to meet him, because I think that would have been really cool. But anyways, let's not get all grim on this episode. I feel like when it's a mostly Nate cast, or when I don't have one of the normal hosts, or any of the normal guys who are a part of the Journey into Comics family, whether it's Nick, Seek, Mike, Wes, Blaine, Shuddy, Brando. I know I'm forgetting people. If I forgot you, I'm seriously sorry as fuck. Oh, Silent Rob. I'm trying to think of everybody that's been on the show. It's Anthony. Anthony's also been on the show. Cody, Tim. You guys are all part of the family, But, when it's just me, I tend to go darker because I'm kind of letting my true self out. Not that Nate on other episodes isn't that guy, but Nate on those other episodes isn't the kind of guy who's going to be like, hey, let's talk comic book news, and I'm going to bring up all this dark shit at the same time. Like, that's just not who I am, I want to keep it real with you guys while also being informative. So let's move into some comic book news here. Now, what's going to happen is, here in a few short minutes, which could be a little longer than a few short minutes, just depends on how quickly I can get through some of this news that I have for you guys today, I'm going to be bringing my guest on to the podcast. We will be interviewing him and asking him a shitload of questions and learning about his comic book that he has on Kickstarter. And then I'm hoping that if you're listening to this and you like what you hear, you'll actually go drop him a few bones and pick yourself up a copy of his book, because I think it's going to be awesome. But we're going to hear from the man himself so soon, so I'm just going to leave it at that. Anyways, let's talk some news that has happened this week in comic book news. Maybe that's a bit we should do. I don't fucking know. Really? Okay, well, here's a headline I just read, and I'm not going to go into the details, but it looks like the Deadpool video game, and I'm guessing this is probably because of the Deadpool movie. If I were to go on a limb, I'm going to say it's probably coming out in 2016, right alongside of the movie. The Deadpool video game is getting a re-release for PS4 and for Xbox One both. So that's pretty cool. All right, so... Oh, Jesus, this is interesting. Man, there's actually quite a bit of news, huh? Really? That's weird. Oh, the voice. Okay, the voice. Okay. So, guys, I'm sorry. I happen to be scrolling a little bit, and I'm trying to find all the news I want to tell you. So, to make sure that I tell you all the news, I'm going to read it direct from the source here. First, I want to talk about Arrow. We were always talking about Arrow and the Flash. Also, I want to give a mad fucking shout out to a couple people. First of all, let's shout out to Cody, who was on, was that last week's episode? 2 weeks ago? That was 2 weeks ago. Nick was last week. So 2 weeks ago, or months ago, depending on when you're listening to this, we had Cody and Tim on. They're my good friends. And they were a part of this awesome episode with Shuddy. And in all of that, we found out that Cody had not watched Arrow or The Flash. Now, what I know, and I actually don't have an update, I know that he is almost through season 2 of Arrow. Cody is. So, shout out to you, Cody, for literally, you were on the episode, and you're like, dude, I'm fucking busting through it. And you're like, I got through season 1, this show's awesome. And then he's like, I'm getting through season 2, and it's fucking awesome. I'm going to start The Flash and Arrow season 3, and it's going to be fucking awesome. So props to you. Also, mad props to my UK bestie, Carmen. C is for Carmen. You are fucking rad, chick. You're awesome. Thank you so much. Carmen was one of the people that followed the Journey into Comics Periscope kind of early on, and she's actually been with us ever since. And every time she's on or I'm on, we're always, hey, what's up? How's it going? She always talks about the episodes, so when she hears this, she's going to be like, oh my God, you were talking about me on your podcast? No fucking way. So Carmen, I'm talking about you. Carmi, because I call you Carmi because that's how I know you. But mad shout out to you. Thank you so much for checking out Journey into Comics. We so appreciate it. And that offer still stands about the show, by the way. So, anywho, moving on down the line, let's talk some actual comic book news and stop stalling here. The Arrowverse just got a bit bigger and greener, which is weird because, I know he's probably going to be the Green Arrow this season. Starling City is going to be Star City like it's supposed to be. But Mark Guggenheim recently posted a teaser image of Coast City, the home of the Green Lantern, or Hal Jordan, rather. And here's all it says. It's a postcard-looking thing, right? And it says, in the brightest day, in the blackest night, come to Coast City when money's tight. So it's an ad, but they're taking from the Green Lantern, which is super fucking awesome. So, super excited. Hopefully we're going to maybe get Green Arrow this season, or Green Lantern this season. I would just love if we continue to expand all of this DC TV show universe. Stop being afraid, DC. Stop being worried about, we can't have... My opinion is this. Here's the facts. They've said they're doing a Green Lantern Corps movie, right? If you're doing a Green Lantern Corps movie, and you're going to need a bunch of Green Lanterns, why not do an alternate Earth Hal Jordan? Or Hal Jordan's from this universe, and other Lanterns are from other universes. And then you can be a more multiverse continuity in the movies and in the TV show. And then, once you've done that, you set yourself so far apart from Marvel. Because literally, at this point, you went, okay, cool, you can tell your stories in your movies. I love Marvel, by the way. But you can tell your stories in your movies and then transcend them into your TV shows and then transcend back to the movies and blah, 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 blah. DC is going to be like, all right, well, here's the deal. All of our universes are separate from each other, but they can all come together. And they all have their own characteristics. And there may be multiple Barry Allens. There may be multiple Oliver Queens. Man, it would be so fucking bomb to see Stephen Amell, who... Props to Stephen Amell for winning his match against Stardust at SummerSlam. Stephen Amell being in an actual DC movie, not just a TV show, would be the fucking raddest. As the same would be able, I could say the same for, as I fumble over my words, the same could be said for Grant Gustin, who plays the Flash. So, speaking of the Flash, I have Flash news. And it's big old swinging dick Flash news, let me tell you what. If the fucking page will load. You guys, can I tell you something? Technology is a fucking dick. I hate technology so fucking much sometimes. I love technology also because technology is how you're listening to me. 9 times out of 10, actually, I can guarantee you 10 times out of 10, the only way you've heard Journey into Comics is through technology, unless you were in the room recording with me at the time, which in that case, technically technology was still involved, but you didn't have to listen to the episode. You were there in real time. Another teaser picture has surfaced for the second season of The Flash. We're going to talk about it. So The Flash has released its latest teaser image for Season 2, featuring Jay Garrick's iconic Flash helmet. It looks bad as fuck. It says, get up to speed, and it's Jay Garrick's helmet on the ground, and there's lightning sparking off of it. Oh, man, they're not fucking around this season. They are bringing Jay Garrick. They are bringing Zoom. They're not playing around. I'm so excited for the second season of The Flash. Speaking of Professor Zoom, and speaking of, interestingly enough, horror movies, which tied into our earlier conversation, it seems that Tony Todd, who was Candyman, he was also in the Final Destination movies, the first couple, has been cast as the voice of Professor Zoom in Season 2. So he will first appear to challenge the Flash in the second episode. Oh my God. Wow. I just learned something, folks. The second episode of this humongous season of The Flash is The Flash of Two Worlds, which means right away in the second season, in the second episode, we get Jay Garrick. No bullshit. Second episode, second season, second Flash, a second Speedster, a second Zoom, or a second Reverse Flash, if you will. Last year, okay, so this is Andrew Kreisberg talking. He says, last year with the Reverse Flash, we just modulated Tom Cavanaugh's voice. This year we wanted to do something a little bit different. Part of the mystery of this season is who or what is underneath the Zoom outfit. So we wanted to do something like James Earl Jones as Darth Vader, this iconic voice coming out of this mask. Last year we thought of the Reverse Flash as a speed warrior. This year Zoom is a speed demon, and no one does a demon voice better than Tony Todd. The Zoom outfit is much more organic than the Reverse Flash suit. In a way, it's hard to tell if it's a suit or alive. There's no skin showing. For all you know, there's a robot underneath, or dark energy. He also says, for us, the best villains are the ones who don't have a megalomaniac. I want to rule the world motivations. Last year, Reverse Flash had a very simple goal, which was, I just want to go home, and if people need to die or cities need to get wasted for me to get that, so be it. So, yeah, I'm fucking super pumped, guys. This is awesome, awesome news. In less awesome news, kind of lame news, but half of this is like half good news, half shit news, so bear with me here. I'm trying to bust through as much news as I can as quickly as possible, give you guys as much information as possible, so that we can get our guest on here in the next 2 minutes probably. So I'm just going to cut it off after this little thing. Stephen Amell says he'll run for Prime Minister if Kanye West runs for president. It seems that Canada and the United States may be engaging in a game of high-stakes chicken with their federal government. During Kanye West's acceptance speech at for the Video Vanguard Awards at last night's MTV Video Music Awards, the VMAs, the hip-hop artist said, as you probably could have guessed by this moment, I have decided in 2020 to run for president. So Stephen Amell, Green Arrow, said, if Kanye runs for president, I'll run for Prime Minister of Canada. I can't tell if Stephen Amell is serious, but if he is, fuck yeah. I mean, if I was in Canada, I'd vote for Stephen Amell. If you're in Canada, you should vote for Stephen Amell. Also, can I ask a question? Where's everybody from who's listening to this show? You guys, listen, here's the deal. We have a email address, journeyintocomicspodcast@gmail.com. Okay, one more time. journeyintocomicspodcast@gmail.com. Go there, email us, ask us questions and shit. Give us a top 25 all-time comic book characters. Give us your superhero draft if you could draft characters from the Nerds of the Round Table episode. Make sure to pick a villain. Literally send us anything. We will respond. We will bring you onto the show in some form or fashion. We'll mention you. We will shout you out. We will appreciate it because we appreciate our fans. But enough cutting to the fat right now. I'm going to take a break here. Other Nate's going to come in here, and we're going to have an interview. And I'm here right now, and it's official. Our first guest that isn't going to be like full-time a part of this show, because it seems like everyone seems to stick around. You actually have some awesome stuff going on. I'd like to welcome to our show Ben Kreger. Am I saying that right?
It's Kreger.
Kreger. Ben Kreger. Welcome.
Howdy.
So, just real quick here, give people a little something about who you are, what you're doing currently, and then we're gonna have a nice little chat.
Okay, sure. My name is Ben Kreger. I've been publishing comics under the imprint Warrior Innkeeper Comics for about 4 years. And then last year we had a name change because I expanded into graphic design services. So now we're called Warrior Innkeeper Creative. So it's not a huge name change, but I think it really explains what I do a little bit better. I've published nearly 20 comics. I think it's 19 comics. Somewhere around 15 or 16. I'm trying to remember. Are comics I've actually written. So in many ways, I'm a self-publisher, but I've been lucky enough to be able to help others publish books and publish a few that aren't my own. And that's really exciting.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the culture of comic books is so special. And to be able to not only write your own stuff, but like you said, to help other people along the way, you're just expanding this awesome universe of nerddom, really, you know?
Yeah. Well, comic books themselves are a collaborative art form. And that's one of the things that really draws me to it, is because you get to work with so many amazing people. It's just this huge, giant team. And I find that really fulfilling. And then to be able to share my knowledge with others, as it was shared with me when I first began, is something that I really enjoy. I got to do a panel for the first time at a local comic festival called the Northwest Comic Fest. It was August 15th and 16th, so not too long ago. And I got to do a panel where I got to, share a little bit of my knowledge of how to get into self-publishing and why you should, and that was just a whole bunch of fun.
Excellent. So you just mentioned, you actually literally just said back when you started, and I actually want to take us all the way back to the beginning and ask you the first of very many important questions. Where did it all begin for you with comics? Where does this journey to you now start? What sparks the want and the need to be a part of this industry?
That's a hard question. It certainly goes back a long time ago. It's weird being old enough to say. I remember 20 years ago. So I think I really got into comics when I was a kid. I'd always been. I knew what superheroes were. One of my first superhero movies I saw when I was like 3 or maybe even younger, Superman, came out the year I was born. So that was the first superhero I was really exposed to. Then, of course, there was the Incredible Hulk on television and Wonder Woman. And then Super Friends and Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends and the Marvel Power Hour and all that kind of stuff. But even though I had like a couple comics here and there, I didn't really get into collecting or even reading on a regular basis until I was somewhere around 12 or 13. And this story might be familiar to a number of people. My parents got divorced. And so when you're a teenager, escapism into comics is kind of an important thing when you're going through something like that. And so Spider-Man was my escape. I got to see this amazing hero do crazy things. And just the stories themselves helped me deal with my own, challenges.
Okay. That's man, it's so weird. It's like we have the same path,
Yeah.
and years apart, because you said, is the story familiar with parents getting divorced? My parents divorced when I was 8, and my first big exposure to comic books was not comic books. It was 1989 Batman.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
and you remember 89 Batman. You were what,
Oh,
probably
yeah.
like, I'm going to say
I was
10?
geeking out somewhere around there. I was
Okay.
geeking out totally. I sat up front, but I kept running back to my parents to tell them, the inside story about what's going on.
Oh,
Because
that's
they
awesome.
didn't read comics, but I knew everything.
And then secondly, the largest collection of books that I have in a run is my Amazing Spider-Man collection. So for you to also tie that in is just like totally mind-blowing. It's so crazy how similar we are. So you start getting into Spidey out of curiosity, because I'm a huge Spidey buff as well.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite Spider-Man villain?
I don't know. I think it's probably Venom. I was exposed to Spider-Man during that era, and so it's kind of like a tie between Venom and maybe Kraven the Hunter.
Oh, man.
I know Kraven, I forget the name of the exact story, but it's the one that ends with Kraven dying.
Kraven's Last Hunt.
Yes.
That was the run. That was the run that happened.
My top tier Spider-Man book, I think.
Yeah, that was the book that happened right before McFarlane took over, and
Yeah.
Venom ended up being created, and then they went on a huge run, and McFarlane did from issue 297 to like 330, I want to say, or something like that. So he did a massive run there for Marvel before he left, and then went to start Spawn and Image Comics.
But there's also a little-known villain, Vermin. In Spectacular Spider-Man, Vermin would show up every now and again, and those stories were just really, really intense. And there's something that I latched onto there.
Excellent.
Oh God! Now I'm going through the whole list. And, we got what's his name, Morbius, the living vampire. I was big on that too. It's crazy. It's hard to pick. I think Spider-Man, like Batman, has a great rogues gallery.
I think that's what makes him the amazing superhero that he is.
Yeah.
I've always argued that it's not necessarily the hero that makes the hero. It's the villains.
It's the villain that makes the hero. Yeah, definitely.
Because you got one guy, you know what he believes in, but the level of psychosis that he brings out in villains and other people is what makes the story so dark and interesting. I know for me, it's Mysterio, man. He's my top dog.
I liked him, but I hate his costume. To this day, I can't get over that giant, stupid dome.
Really? I found something charming about the fishbowl.
I like his stories, though. They're often written really well. And, there's, this edge of mystery around Mysterio. And, how the hell did he come up with that ridiculous costume? That hasn't been explained in the books as far as I know.
Yeah, I don't think even in Amazing Spider-Man 13 at his debut, I don't think they ever once discussed why the look. I just know it was all for theatrics. So
yeah.
I assume that's what you have to do with it.
Yeah.
So continuing on, you're 12, you're 13, you're reading Spidey. Sure. What's the next major thing that kind of happens in your life to shape your actual journey into comics? I've never got to say that, but this is like legitimate right now, so I get to say that to you.
Strangely enough, it was the infamous Spike Lee, Rob Liefeld commercial. That was the first time that I had seen anybody or get into comics. It was the first thing. It was like, oh, you can be a normal person and do comic books. And so I really got into X-Force and followed Liefeld's story as he, went from X-Force to Image. And there was something about that made me think, oh, I could do this on my own. I could do this too. And so I think it might have started in junior high, but it was definitely by high school. I had created my first imprint, which was called Quantum Comics. And I created a superhero universe with a couple friends that maybe mimicked Marvel a little too closely.
Hey, what do they say? Impressionism is the most sincerest form of flattery, or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So
and I always thought, well, I'd be an author and I'd write this best-selling book, and that book would give me money to start my comic book company. Unfortunately, then that has yet to happen. As far as the novel goes, I'm actually working on one, but that's a totally different story. And then in my later teen years, 18 through, I don't know, I think it was like 24 before I gave up the dream. Well, I got into acting when I was like 14. And then when I was a late teen, I thought I'd be an actor or filmmaker or screenwriter. And I began studying screenwriting, and my friends and I did a couple really horrible no-budget films that make us laugh to death even today. But we're terrified of showing it to anybody that doesn't have the inside jokes going on.
Totally understandable. You were writing for each other. You weren't writing for an audience.
Exactly. We had hopes of getting on public access. But even though I ended up joining a group in college that did some public access stuff, our show never actually made it there, which might be good. Anyways, yeah, and then around 24, I kind of gave it all up and took the practical job, worked graveyard and manufacturing for about 12 years with an interruption with the U.S. Army National Guard, where I did a couple tours over in Iraq and Kuwait. And it was actually the aftermath of going to war that put me on the path to getting back into comics. Finding it very interesting how something that happens to you that's really, really awful can redirect your life in a positive way, if that makes sense.
Man, that totally makes sense. That's the old adage that I've always loved to hear of using evil for good.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, and I totally understand what you're saying. When you're affected with something, anything that's major in your life, life-changing, the number one thing to latch onto is that's a scar that you can wear as armor, ultimately.
Yeah.
And you can turn it around and use it as something that can bring good to people. You are still telling your story with that. So I totally understand what you were saying with that.
Yeah, and that's let's see. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought.
Happens to me all the time on this show. Just ask our viewers. They'll be like, yeah, Nate has no idea what the fuck he's talking about. He just tangents off for an hour.
So, I came back. I thought I was doing well, but I wasn't. And I was, suffering from PTSD, which led into a really, really deep depression. Something that was very difficult to actually climb out of. I was lucky enough to figure out that asking for help is okay and finding the courage to go ahead and do that. But what really helped me climb out of my personal pit of despair, or whatever the hell it was I was working at a factory again, and one of my coworkers had heard I was a writer, and I'm obviously into comics because I don't think there's a day in my life where I'm not wearing some sort of comic shirt or whatever.
Amen to that. As I'm wearing my Los Pollos Hermanos shirt, some Breaking Badness there, but
yeah. And so she asked me if I write comics, and I say, well, I've dabbled. And then she goes, well, my husband, he's doing a comic book company. He's starting a comic book company, and he's looking for writers. So I meet this dude named Ty Wakefield, and he started a comic company called Alternate Reality Comics, and asked me to write a story for his anthology book by the same name as his company. And from there, it kind of just became natural to be part of the comic community. And a few years later, I found myself in a really bad situation where, the economic boom, all the housing's foreclosures. One of my houses was the foreclosed on. My house was foreclosed on, and so I found myself severely mentally ill, without a house, um, divorced, without a job, and I ended up on a friend's couch, luckily, and worked my way out of it from there. And while I was on his couch, he's my friend Adam Watson of Dark Slinger Comics. I'll give a shout out because his books are freaking amazing.
Shout out to Adam. What's up?
Yeah, and he really encouraged me to do this on my own. So in 2009, I created Warrior Innkeeper Comics, and started off as just an online presence because I was still writing stuff and looking for artists. So Warrior Innkeeper Comics existed only on MySpace, Facebook, and Twitter, though it took me about 5 years to actually use Twitter.
I didn't use Twitter for a long time either, so I totally get where you're coming from there. Like, I was like, Twitter, really? Like, what am I gonna? What?
I know.
I am too long-winded to just say something in 140 characters.
Exactly. I end up doing like 4 or 5 tweets in a row.
You have to. Like, I can't get a concise thought in like 12 words. Like, if anyone knows me, has met me, like, it's ADD. I'm sorry, I have it. You know, my brain just wants to tell the story with every stupid, pointless detail.
Yeah. And fucking tweeter. So I'm getting everything put together, and it's really exciting. And then about 3 or 4 months in, I get handed this package, and it's orders to go on my second tour. And I'm like, I was just getting my life together. But you know what? That's another one of those things that seemed really awful. Like, I thought I was going to Afghanistan, and I was terrified because, you know, it's way worse than Iraq. And you have to poop in a bag and all sorts of gross stuff.
Man, I know that they say don't thank a soldier, but like from us, thank you. Because seriously, man, I can't do that. I don't have the courage. I don't have that kind of courage. It's not me.
I never thought I did too until I got there, and I was like, oh, okay, I can do this.
Well, that's fucking awesome, man. I appreciate it.
Luckily, though, thank you, or you're welcome. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out how to respond to that. Anyways, let me get back to it. So we land in Kuwait because you always stop in Kuwait before you go to your destination, and we have the plane. They're doing inventory and counting heads and stuff, and they go, "Oh, you're staying here." I was like, me and my buddies were like, "Okay," you know. So we ended up doing falling in with the Florida National Guard, who was there needing some ranks filled in. And we were the, I'm trying to remember exactly what it's called, but basically we were guards for the base. I was lucky again that I got an administrative job during that year. So me and 3 of my other buddies got to sit in a nice air-conditioned office and do paperwork for a year, which is good and bad at the same time.
Kind of like lose your mind in that office space.
You do. I often say that my second tour was actually more difficult.
It was Groundhog's Day.
Yeah, it's like, you know, God, someone shoot at me, please. I mean, it's weird, but that's kind of, you know, the soldier mentality. It's like you're a soldier, you want to be, you know, fighting the bad guy, be G.I. Joe, and beat up Cobra. But that year allowed me to continue building my comic books. And so I was able to hire artists, which were actually, I don't know what the word is, not passed on to me, but Adam once again helped me find 2 artists because I was doing 2 books. I was doing a mature book and an all-ages book because that's just how my mind is. You know, I'm a dad, so you got to do the kid stuff.
Yeah, I saw that on your Skype. I was going to ask that. Yeah, I saw. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. I want to get in that you also write children's books, but I'll let you continue on your story.
Oh, sure. So it gave me the financial backing to get these books made, and gave me the time to actually work on them. By the end of the tour, I came home and had enough money to get these books that I had been making all year long printed up, and we went to Emerald City Comic Con up in Seattle to debut our first books, and that was there's something amazing about the whole process. But what's really, really awesome and was going to the printer and picking up the books for the first time and opening that box and seeing those comics fresh off the printer. They're still a little warm, and they have this incredible smell that only print has. That feeling is more euphoric than almost anything else I've experienced.
I mean, that's that's literally, I mean, a different form of your baby sitting there in front of you, you know? I mean,
Yeah.
it's all your hard work and all your dedication and everything you ever fought for actualized.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I really encourage people when they ask me, well, should I do this? I say, fuck yeah. And there's these, God, I hope it's okay, I'm swearing like a...
It's totally fucking cool.
All right.
I think, like, episode...
It's all right.
I did an episode at the beginning of the year. People can go back and listen to, and I think I said "fuck" somewhere like 260 times in an hour and 12 minutes. So, I mean,
South Park episode. What's wrong with you?
Yeah. Well, I was on fire that day, and I had a lot of passion, and a lot of things to say. I don't think it was about how terrible Fantastic Four was. I just want to keep driving that point home, but I digress. Continue.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Anyways, I was just going to end there with, after those first comics came out, it was over. I was a comic writer. I was a comic publisher. I can't imagine not doing this. There's days when I want to quit. I think there's days when everybody in the industry wants to quit. They're just fed up with some of the challenges. But then, you sit down and you contemplate and you go, no, I want to do this until I die. I want to be like typing a script and hit the end, and that's how I want to die.
Fucking poetic.
It's too awesome to give up. This medium is amazing. There's no story you cannot tell in the comic medium. There literally, you can tell small stories. You can tell huge epic stories. There's such a giant range, and it's allowed me to, like I said, tell stories in all sorts of different genres, and not to mention get to work with so many different artists, so many different types of styles. In my short 5 years as a publisher, it's really been amazing, the talent that I've gotten to work with. I count that as a major blessing in my life.
Absolutely. So, you've built yourself up into this. You've started the work. You've made some comics, and logically, what do you do now? What is the current project that you're working on? Let's discuss that a little bit, and really, it's really legitimately up to you how much you give away. It is your book, 100%. So I always
give away too much. That's what I gotta work on.
Look, here's what I always tell people. Okay,
all right.
On this show, probably 200 million times we've said the word spoilers. So just look, if you don't want to be spoiled on Ben's book, and he starts to slip a little too much, just tune him out for like 3 seconds. I'm sure it'll be great. Okay, there are spoilers here, folks. It's coming from the man himself. Okay, give him some slack. Yeah, so
there's going to be one spoiler, but I think it's okay because it doesn't really ruin the book.
I just like the title of the book.
I've gotten that compliment a lot. I was like, I'm very wordy, and I love huge titles. Like my first all ages book, its title is "The Less Than Historical Adventures of Little Lincoln." Now, try to imagine coming up with a logo for that, or that took forever to figure out how I'm going to put that many words at the top of the book without
Whew.
It was fun.
Did it end in cursive? Was Little Lincoln written in cursive?
No,
Okay.
though I'm very tempted to redo it in like Lincoln Logs,
Oh,
but I
that would
think
be awesome.
that just might end up being too cheesy. It's in my head, and I'm sure one day I'll eventually draw it just to see what it looks like.
And then you'll be like, really, what was I thinking?
Exactly.
Or you'll be like, oh my God, that was it
That's
the whole
awesome.
time. It was
Yeah.
right in front of me.
It's gonna be awesome. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. Just see. So what I'm doing now is kind of going first full circle here. So if we go back to 2009, I published my first mature title. Um,
I like that we're getting all the juicy details, like the
Yeah.
backstory. I love it.
So that was The Black Suit of Death, Ides of March. And that, I'm being attacked by a baby.
Hey, it happens.
That was I call it a distant prelude to the ongoing series that we're doing now, which is simply titled Black Suit of Death. And I'm going to be going back and forth here. So the Black Suit of Death is a satirical science fiction horror series that see, losing my train of thought again. You know, you'd think I'd be prepared with like some sort of elevator speech or something.
No, but it's better if it comes from the heart, and especially especially if you're literally just like me right now and you're losing your train of thought. Like, I have such just a spaced out brain that I will be talking mid sentence and completely lose what I was even trying to say.
Yeah.
I saw a video online just the other day. This guy was on live TV, and they were asking him about some sort of attack that had happened. And he was describing what was going on, about how this girl was getting pulled by her legs or whatever. And then he stops as he's saying it. And he looks in the camera and he goes, "I'm sorry, what were we talking about again?" Like, he's on the crime scene. And I was like, I totally relate to you.
Wow. I
So
hope I didn't get that bad.
So don't worry if you have to backtrack yourself a little bit, you lose your train of thought. We're just excited. It's like from concept to creation right now is what we're talking. The concept of the Black Suit of Death story to the creation of it, which we're in the process of. We're going to talk to people about how to get to the meat and potatoes of how to get that book here in a few. But again, back to concept to creation.
Okay.
It's 2009. You've started the book.
I'm gonna go back 20 years because
Awesome.
that's really where it began. So I mentioned that I was into screenwriting, and my friends and I made some silly home movies. Well, I don't know what it was, 96 or 97 when the movie Scream came out.
Oh, topical. You are a brilliant bastard. I love you. Oh my gosh. You're tying everything I was hoping to talk about together. So you're brilliant. Continue.
We'll get to that sadness in the geek community, I'm sure. So we go back to Scream. It came out. My friends and I, we're bored geeky guys. You know, we love horror movies and B movies and all sorts of weird stuff. And one night we're just bored. My friend had a camcorder. Another friend had a costume that was like the Scream Ghostface killer. You know, minus the ghost face. It was just, we had one of those faceless masks, those black masks. So we threw that on my friend. I got behind the camera, started giving everyone directions, and we refilmed Drew Barrymore's death scene. But because we're geeky boys, we don't know a single girl. So we used my friend's sister's Barbie dolls to stand in for Drew Barrymore. And it's a really weird movie where everyone else is human size. We didn't know about forced perspective yet because Peter Jackson hadn't made the Lord of the Rings yet, so we didn't know any of those cool tricks that he taught.
He was in the process, though.
Yeah, he was.
Right in the thick of it.
And so we ended up making this cheesy parody of a parody. Strangely enough, though, it sparked new ideas in our head. And we go, well, we can use this Black Suit of Death and other stuff. And so we ended up making another film called The Black Suit of Death. And from that, we went and wrote another screenplay after these 2 short films that we made, where we wanted to expand on like what could this Grim Reaper like character be like, and we went into this thing, but we didn't have any money, so it was no budget, so we kept on hacking at the script because we're like, well, what can we actually get on film, get on video? And the script ended up being really short, like 10 scenes instead of, I don't know, the usual 100 or whatever it is. And we shot pieces here and there over the next like 5 years, and it just never came to be. And then now we're all grown up, we're getting married, moving away, and we all separated, and the film was never finished. And come 10, 15 years later, I call up my buddy Ed Ellsworth, who is my co-creator on this comic, and I tell him, hey, I'm doing this comic thing. What do you think about the Black Suit of Death being in a comic book? And he got really excited about it, and I got really excited about it. And so we started writing the script. It was supposed to be a 0 issue, because I'm a 90s comic geek, so 0 issues were really big back then. So that's what I was aiming for, something about 6 pages, maybe 7, and then it was 12, and then it was 19. So we got a full comic book, and I hire an artist, and Stefano Carselli, who's done a lot of work for heavy metal.
Excellent.
And so he pencils and inks this book. And next thing I know, I got 2 comic books out. Comic book creator, yay! But it took forever to find the right colorist. I think it was 3 years later before we actually got the book colored. And so now it's finally complete, and I'm very excited about that. So now we have the Black Suit of Death, Ides of March, in full color, and everything's going well. But it would take another 2 years to try and figure out how to get the series started. We really wanted to do this series, which, whereas the prelude book tells you the origin of the suit, which is that it comes from the planet Utopia 9, and it's a killing machine that is responsible for controlling the population of controlling the population of an overcrowded utopia. And the Utopians don't like it, and here's the spoiler, so he gets banished to Earth, along with the suit.
And that sets up the story.
Yeah, and that sets up the story, and that's where we pick up with the series. So the Black Suit of Death, the series, takes place approximately 10,000 years after the suit landed on Earth. And over the many, many millennia, the Black Suit of Death, or we like to just refer to it as BSD because it's a terribly long name.
True.
The suit's had many, many different pilots throughout history. And whenever you look back in history in mythical texts, biblical texts, or actual real history, whenever there's been like this unexplained mass killings, the Black Suit of Death was behind that. The BSD did that. So he was the angel of death in the Egyptian plagues. He was there during the Black Plague in Europe. And my baby wants to talk to me.
Hey man, I can kill a few seconds. It's not gonna slow the show down. Like I said, we're super loose, man.
Awesome. I think he's all right.
Okay, cool.
So now here it is, America, modern day. This distraught graphic design student who may or may not be based on me and my co-writer.
Awesome.
After years of struggling with depression and social anxiety and just not having a good outlook on life, he goes off into the desert and decides he's just going to die of exposure in the desert. No one's going to know he's gone. No one's going to care. Well, while failing to do that, he discovers the BSD, and it becomes the modern day Grim Reaper. And he's thrust into this new role where, as we say, his fleeting thoughts of violence and harshest judgments of his fellow human have deadly consequences now. So, say he's driving down the street. He gets a little road rage. Instead of just getting pissed off, honking his horn, and going on, he stops the car, goes out, and reaps that dude's life energy. And he has like this crazy urge to judge the unworthy. The whole I missed a point. So the creator of the Black Suit of Death, Dr. Sietzen, he decided that in order to save Utopia from overpopulation, he would create this suit that would be able to judge the worthy of Utopia and the unworthy. And the unworthy, their life force would be harvested to power the planet's battery core to keep the civilization going. So it was an energy crisis, population crisis thing. I don't know. I really don't think I'm doing it justice now. I'm like,
No, man, it's fine. Look, let me tell you what. From what you've said there, without spoiling the story, I'm very intrigued. I want to know where the story goes, because from what you've told me, you've taken a guy who's just a guy, and he had no powers and he had nothing special about him, and you've given him this circumstance. And that's really what it is. He has this circumstance, which is the suit. And now he has more power than he even knows what to do with. So does it take over who you are as a person? And I kind of like that concept.
Yeah. All right. You got it then. Maybe I explained it right.
I mean, totally. I'm totally sold. I'm totally hooked. Now, without, giving too much away, I've got to ask, because I kind of figured after I have terrible insomnia, so I was up super late last night on the Facebook, and I happened to see a post that you had posted, and my question is, will this book in any way be dedicated to Wes Craven? Because the fact that you just brought him up, and I wanted to tie this back into our conversation this evening, because I saw that he did have a huge impact on your life, so... And then it's like,
impact.
Your story is this Grim Reaper guy, and maybe that's not how Wes goes out, even though to him that would be totally fucking classic and awesome. There's this, I was driving and someone got angry at me and killed me over that. That's fucking awesome. That's hilarious. So just as a director, as a writer, and as a good human being, what were some of the things that drew you to the style of Wes Craven?
The fact that he used psychology. I think he must have been the first, outside of, I think, maybe Hitchcock. But he really understood human psychosis. He knew how the brain worked. He understood how we worked. And then he would use that against us in these movies. And I always felt that was brilliant. Like, I watched all these movies and didn't understand why I was so attached to them. And then I finally got to see an interview with him where he explained, his process, and that how he understood dreams and the effects they have on him, as well as how they could have effects on people. And I think his creation of Freddy Krueger, besides that, we share some ancestry with our name.
Yeah, actually.
Just the way he would fool us into being scared, at the same time give us an out. I don't know how to explain it. It was just the way he approached fear, I think, is what really drew me to him. Fear is obviously the greatest weakness I think humans have. I really buy into the whole you have nothing to fear but fear itself. I think that is one of the truest statements ever uttered by any leader in the history of the world, because fear causes us to do so many stupid things. And if we can learn to overcome it, at the very least for a short period of time, we can achieve really great things. And I think it was Wes Craven that taught me first. And I think that's a great idea to dedicate it. And I've been trying to think about, because I don't want to use his death as a way to like catapult my story or anything. So I've been, outside of what my creator partner and I have said on Facebook, I hadn't thought about like really doing anything else, because I didn't want to tarnish his name in any way, because I do. I look up to him as a writer. But I think dedication might actually be something I need to do.
I mean, just a little quote from either him or a character, and
Yeah.
then I mean, it would be super fucking classy, man. I mean, I'm not trying to tell you what to do with your
No,
book,
thank
but
you.
you know,
What better way to say thank you to a man who actually put us on this path? I mean, if it wasn't for Scream, who knows if we would have ever had this idea?
exactly. And it's it's weird because I said this earlier in the show before you came on. To me, Wes Craven has transcended and will live forever because ultimately he found a way to transcend the idea of a movie and bring it into your reality, so much so that you were forced to almost face your fears.
Yes.
I mean,
yes, that's well said.
it was put like right in front of you, and it's like, okay, well, you know what? I have to go to sleep, and if Freddy's there, well, whatever, so be it. Let's go, And I remember, man, I remember being a kid and being terrified to fucking go to sleep after seeing those movies. And then in retrospect, it's like, again, as I was talking earlier on the show, I don't know if you've seen the documentary on Netflix, Never Sleep Again.
So last night, I typed in his name and was like, well, my teenager's old enough. She needs to watch these movies now. I got a 16-year-old. And so I went on Netflix and said, okay, we're just going to do a Wes Craven marathon. And I, clicked add on everything. I came across that documentary. I was like, oh my God, how have I not seen this yet? So I'm really excited. I haven't gotten a chance to watch it yet, but I'm really excited that it's on my queue now.
Like I warned the listeners earlier, it is 4 hours long. They go through everything Freddy
Oh, that
Krueger.
is great. Oh,
I mean, and there's candid interviews with almost all the cast. There are only two people that didn't participate in the documentary, which were Johnny Depp, because I do believe he was filming one of the Pirates movies when they were filming this,
okay.
and Patricia Arquette, who just didn't want to participate for whatever reason.
Yeah, she has her own reasons. She doesn't participate in those things very often.
But, I mean, dude, Freddy Krueger, primetime, bitch. Welcome to primetime, bitch. Like, one of the greatest lines of all time. And ultimately, you can't do anything else but thank Wes Craven, So,
Yeah, exactly.
So, man, it's just, it does suck. But he was a warrior, 76 years old. I mean, he only had, if he was lucky, he only had a few good years left and fought brain cancer. I mean,
that's rough.
It's tragic, but at the same time, he like I said, he has transcended all of that now. Ultimately, he will live forever in his characters and in his storytelling, which is back to you. What you, at some point in your career, want to do is tell a story where people go, "Oh shit, yes, this is what we want right now." Which, with your pitch for Black Suit of Death, that to me, I'm hooked. Your idea was just like, okay, as a comic book fan, as somebody who actively reads modern comics, and people who listen to the show will tell you, man, I am so fucking over Marvel and DC right now because all this. Okay, look, no offense, but Secret Wars is a money ploy. I'm sorry. Even if the main story was great, which from what I've read so far, it's pretty good. I'm only like 3 issues in. I'm way behind. But, I couldn't do it. I'm sick of buying 100,000 crossovers and so many variants. And then now Marvel's going to do an all new, all different Marvel and start with number ones again. Like, I'm sick of it.
I'm tired of number ones.
Like,
I could just vomit number ones.
I mean, it's awful. So and the only DC I'm reading right now is the Batman story that Capullo and Snyder are writing, which is phenomenal if you haven't read it. But when you tell me your story and you give me your synopsis of what Black Suit of Death is about, I instantly was like, that is something that I would look forward to reading. I would be anticipating what happens next. Where does the story go from here?
Well, it's got 27 issues planned out so far, and that's actually the first major story arc. It's kind of imitating television in a way, thinking, well, let's do one epic season and see how that goes.
Do whatever you can.
and then we got, there's limitless stories you can tell with this dude. And, like I mentioned, the Angel of Death in Egypt and the Black Plague, because very specifically I have story ideas for those written down in my notes for spin-offs some years down the road. Like I said, I want to do this till I die. So
Hell yeah. That's awesome. So now let's get to the bread and butter, and this is what I want people to know, and I'm sure you want people to know too. You've had a Kickstarter
Yes.
for a while now, and you're trying to get funding for this book. Where do people find you, and what are some of the things they can expect to get if they back your Kickstarter?
Okay. Well, easiest way to find me is on Facebook. Type in Warrior Innkeeper in Google, and you'll find me. As far as I know, I'm the only person in at least America that goes by Warrior Innkeeper Comics, Warrior Innkeeper Creative.
Well, and we'll also put a link for our listeners
Awesome.
on this episode, so people would be able to click directly there as well if they choose to go to the Podbean, because a lot of our listeners do check us out on iTunes.
That's
so
awesome.
if they're going back to the Podbean site, or if you're on iTunes right now, go back to the Podbean site, and you can find the link to find Ben's project. Okay, so continue on. Now we've got this Kickstarter.
Yeah, so Kickstarter, type in Black Suit of Death, search that, you'll find me. So once you find me, you'll be able to read a lot more information about what this book is about, what it means to us. You'll be able to see the list of creators, which I actually want to talk about. I got Dexter Wee, who is an artist who has actually been the artist on several books that have been successful on Kickstarter. I'm going to mention Kirite Ibsen because it is my favorite webcomic, and that is how I discovered Dexter Wee, was through that webcomic. And Patriot One, which is by my friend Kevin Powers. It's about a soldier who is fighting in Afghanistan. And I thought that was a really good book, so I backed it. And of course, it was being drawn by Dexter Wee, so I had to back that one.
Absolutely.
And going through this real fast, Jeremy Kahn, he applied. I put on Facebook that I was looking for a colorist some years ago on another project, and he applied for the job, and I thought his colors were awesome and very well done. So I hired him for one of my comics, and bringing him back for this one. I think him and Dexter Wee work really well together. And then, of course, my oldest buddy in the world, I think, Ed Ellsworth. Him and I, when we're writing together, it's like we're one brain. It's really weird. He's always been a guy that I can bounce creative ideas off of and expect 100% awesomeness to come back. He's just a great collaborator. And there's one more creator on this book that I'm really, really excited about, because it's someone who did a comic that was part of my childhood. You may have remembered flipping to the back of your Spider-Man comic books and reading a short cartoon called Petey, The Adventures of Peter Parker Before He Became Spider-Man.
Yep, absolutely.
I've been talking to Fred Hembeck for a couple years, and he is going to do a feature in the back of every issue of the Black Suit of Death for as long as I can, pay him.
Excellent.
That's me saying it, not him. He's like the nicest guy in comics, I swear. So Fred Hembeck will be writing and drawing an original cartoon called Little BSD. And I think it's... Hi, buddy. I think it's really exciting that I get to work with, I guess a childhood idol, maybe. I don't really like throwing out the word idol, but I'm not sure what to use.
He's one of your, a younger
inspiration. Someone I looked up to, someone that entertained me for years and made me laugh.
Absolutely.
And so it's awesome to get to work with him. Let's see. Let's talk about some individual rewards. Some people are telling me I'm a little too generous, and I'm not saying that to promote myself. Just think it's weird. So
I didn't think so. I thought the pricing and what you were getting was fair. I mean, I've backed some things
really hard. I did a lot of research trying to figure this out.
Absolutely, and it's such a fine line. You don't want to be overly generous and put yourself in a little bit of peril, and you also don't want to be not generous enough. People be like, "Why does this dickhead want money? He's not even giving me anything cool." Do you want to come say hi? Can you say hi? Hi. Oh, hello.
Little boy, my 2-year-old, he's saying hi. So I wanted to talk about, like in my Kickstarter, I talked about the power of the dollar because I think every dollar counts, and that's kind of how I approached my rewards. Is I wanted to be sure that, successful or not, everyone who made a pledge, who was kind enough to make a pledge to my campaign, got something out of it. So I started with my $1 tier and offered a digital version of my Black Suit Death sketchbook #1, which is not only has sketches from the creation of Ides of March, but also has some background. I kind of call it, it's like a comic book version of DVD commentary.
Awesome.
And so if you make any donation, or excuse me, I guess they're called pledges. If you make a pledge to my Kickstarter, even if it fails, you still get a digital sketchbook. And I'll email those out at the end of the campaign. Just as a thank you for, taking a chance on us, believing in us, because I think that's just really important, is to thank the people who support you in any way you can. And I thought it would be fun to kind of give them a book that talks about the creation of comics, and maybe it lands in the hand of some kid who wants to make his own books, and he goes, oh, well, here's kind of a template for it. In addition to that, we're giving away copies of Ides of March, copies of Black Suit Death issue 1, which is what the Kickstarter is for. We got a couple prints already made up and ready to be shipped out to you, the backers. At our higher levels, this is something that I'm kind of excited about, is you get to be drawn into the comic.
Awesome.
And so, because we have room for several characters to have faces of backers, but we don't have the money to redraw the page a whole bunch of times, at one level, you get your face drawn into the comic, and you get a full-size print of that page. And then at another level, you get drawn into the comic, and you get the actual original artwork for that page.
That's awesome as fuck.
Which is a lot of fun, I think. And the last thing I'd like to mention is, oh shoot. My son yelled in my ear, and I totally forgot what I was going to say.
You were mentioning one of your tiers.
Yes. Minions. Oh, yeah. There is a level. So, Dexter Wee lives in the Philippines. And so getting his autograph on a comic book that he's drawn is, hard unless you have money to travel and he's at a con out there or whatever. So we've made a tier where I'm going to send a whole bunch of books out to him and have him sign them and send them back. And then I'm going to send them to the colorist, who is over on the East Coast. I'm on the West Coast of USA. And then I'm going to send them down to Arizona, where Ed is, and have him sign them. And then I'm going to send them out to all the backers that pledged at this level. And they will be the only ones to have Black Suit Death issue 1 signed by all the creators.
That's awesome. Absolutely.
I'm really excited about it because I'm going to be able to get my book signed by Dexter too.
That was a good, smart move. You're like, how do I do this?
Yeah, it's like, how do I afford to get him to sign my book? Oh, I'll have the backers do it.
Bingo.
But yeah, that's some of the cool stuff that we're doing.
I know there's one other thing, though, that is with your Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm.
What's up with this coffee mug?
That was a silly idea I had, and it was kind of like, what the heck? So coffee is responsible for me getting through the day and getting all my work done. I have had to replace my caffeine intake. It used to be Coca-Cola, but lucky me, I got the diabetes.
Oh,
And so I had to switch several habits. I love caffeine a little too much. I think if I've ever been had a vice, it would be caffeine.
all right. I feel you.
And so now I'm into coffee, and I was like, well, I got coffee mugs. Why don't I just make a coffee mug? And so we toyed around with some wordplay, and I decided on I survived the scythe of death. I felt that was very fitting for the black suit of death. And it'll also feature the cover for issue 1. And that's just a fun little reward tier. I'm going to be ordering myself one of those mugs here soon. And that'll be my writing mug, I think.
I mean, and you know, you don't. I don't even think you even realize you have another business opportunity like right in front of you. You have these mugs. Why not make the coffee? Right? I mean, break into that industry, man. Just find a brand, call it the Black Suit of Death Coffee. I know Sarah will buy it. That's my lady. She will purchase your coffee. She's a coffee. What do you call that? Aficionado. She loves coffee. So, you know that.
I'm gonna have to do that. I'm gonna have to look into that.
It's a sales point, man.
I'll do it.
I'm an ideas guy. That's what I do.
I love ideas, man.
So yeah, I'm excited. I'm back. Like I told you, I'm back in the Kickstarter as soon as I can. It's only got 15 days left.
We have 13 days left, at least for a couple more hours. And then I think by the time I wake up, it'll be 12 days to go. So we're pretty close to the end here. But we have high spirits. We know because everyone keeps telling us that we got a good idea. It's a little bit challenging because we're the writers. In most Kickstarters, especially the successful comic book Kickstarters, already have all the artwork done. And Ed and I, we're just lowly graphic designers trying to make a living. Don't quite have the extra change. I certainly don't. I got too many damn kids. I love them all. Don't get me wrong.
Shout out to the kids.
It's fun to joke about. So, my money goes towards them, and I can't go spend thousands of dollars making a comic book anymore. So that's why we decided to go ahead and try Kickstarter. Not to mention, it expands our collaborative sphere, if you will. Backers, they're investing in us, and they're trusting us to create an awesome product. And because of that, I kind of feel like they're part of the collaborative process. I mean, they got to be. Now, not artistically, granted, but
totally understandable.
But they're part of the team,
yeah,
and I think that's important to acknowledge. And
I think it's because the backers. I mean, and now myself being included into saying that, we want to see you guys be successful in this. The idea is there, the story is there. To get other people to hear the story or to just even understand the story is all it's going to take, and you're going to continue to build more backers. So I know with every resource we have here at Journey into Comics, we're going to be just pushing this thing for the next 12 days, and we're going to go, gung ho for election until we can hopefully get you guys to the goal. Now I have a question.
Yes.
Does your Kickstarter also include people around the world?
Yes, it does. Because shipping outside of the U.S. is a little more expensive, we are asking for an additional $15 to cover the shipping, because it's actually usually around $20 just to ship outside the U.S. And we're going to cover the basic shipping fee that, we do for all the U.S. residents that are lucky enough to live within a shipping area that's cheaper.
The States. It's fine. You can say that.
I don't want to that's weird. Yeah, so we are open to international backers. In fact, it's really exciting because we have several already. Let's see, the only country I can remember is France. I think there's one backer from England. There's one from our neighbors up north, Canada.
Well,
And so
if there's
that's-
anything that can come out of this, I know we've got some listeners that are in, let's see, shout out to Norway, shout out to Denmark, shout out to Great Britain, shout out to Germany, shout out to Canada, and I think we've got some listeners in Brazil now. So
Awesome.
hopefully
That's great.
we can really spread this out, man, and get people to find you. And also, I Periscope. I don't know if you know what the Periscope app is, but I Periscope almost every single day. I go on, I talk about what's going on in the comic world, what I'm currently checking out or whatever I'm just doing right there in the moment. And earlier, before me and you came on, I actually was talking about my process of interviewing you, talking to you about these books, being anxious about not knowing what to expect, and then your story being so close to my story is just like really fucking awesome. Like that we've made this awesome connection through Seek, and Seek's a big part of our show here as well. So I'm stoked to push this as far as we can, man.
That is awesome. I appreciate it. I mean, I say that a lot, but I really want people to understand that we really, really appreciate this. The backers are going to give us the opportunity to continue being creative and continue writing and creating comics. And I personally feel that I can't express my appreciation enough. So I say thank you as often as I can, because this is just awesome. It's an awesome opportunity to be able to do this, and the backers are allowing it. And I think you can't say thank you enough.
All right, a few things here before we close. Okay,
Sure.
I've got another question about Kickstarter, and then here at Journey into Comics, what we've been doing as a new segment is we do something called the final question of the week. And having you here and you being into comics, I'm going to ask a really tough question. I'll answer the question as well, so don't feel like you're going to be out on an island. Like, oh shit, he's asking me this and he doesn't have to answer it himself. What a dick, And then we also encourage our listeners to give us feedback and answer the question as well. So before we get there, is it true that if you guys get to like 50% of the backing on Kickstarter will fund the other half if you guys don't make goal? Is that still a thing, or do they not do that anymore?
I haven't heard that. It sounds like something that might have been done as a promotional thing. Maybe when they first became really successful, they decided to share the success. That's kind of something like tech companies will do, things like that. It's not unheard of. But as far as I know, that's not true.
Okay.
Because I just had a friend of mine, he writes the comic Blood and Gourd, and they just did their Kickstarter, and they were at like 98%, and it was like down to or actually maybe it was 90%. It was down to the last couple hours, and it looked like they weren't going to make it, but then, a regular person finally finished off their Kickstarter, and they hit goal, and were able to actually get their book made. So as far as I know, Kickstarter, the company, had nothing to do with that other than, what they already provide.
All right. Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
So my next thing is, and this is maybe a little out of the blue, if and I hope this is not just an if, but when we decide that we want to have you back, are you going to come back onto the show?
I'd love to, yeah.
Excellent. It's been really great to talk with you so far, and I think you gel really nicely. Obviously, like I said, you're friends with Seek, so that's a connection there. I'm sure we'd love to have you. I'm super excited to have had this conversation. So I want to just, before we get into the final question of the week, I just want to say, Ben, thank you so much for coming on. It was really sincerely a pleasure to talk to you, to learn about your book, to hear your story. And like I said, I want to make sure we just promote the fuck out of this book. We'll promote the fuck out of this episode, so hopefully people will hear your story and go, that's why I want to buy the book. I like the guy, I like the story, let's do this, and that's ultimately what we want to see happen.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, man. So let's get down to it. Final question of the week. It's kind of gonna be a little bit tough, I'm sure, and it is gonna put you on the spot a little bit here, but the question is gonna be,
okay,
if you could put together any writers an artist and draw and have them draw and write your story for any superhero. Who's the superhero? Who's the writer? Who's your artist? And what kind of story would you tell?
Okay. Well, my initial reaction is me and Dexter drawing a Superman story that I have a concept for. That heralds back to his origins in 1938. It's a story that I really want to tell someday. The very least I'm going to do as some sort of fan fiction if DC never thinks I'm good enough for them. Damn Warner Brothers. Yeah, let's see. That's a tough. Okay. I got a writer.
Okay.
Joshua Dessart. He writes a Valiant. I think it's Hardbringer.
Okay.
Fantastic writer. I really enjoy his work.
Excellent.
Let's see. Team him up with Clayton Crane to do a Spectre story.
Ooh.
I think that would be really, really interesting.
That does sound really interesting. Man, that's a good setup, actually. Like, I'm just sitting here going, yeah, okay, bring the Spectre in, yeah. They would knock that out of the park.
Oh, definitely.
And I mean, if you wrote the story, I mean, you could control exactly what you want it to be.
Yeah.
You know, ultimately. I know for me,
that's tempting now. I gotta find a way to do that.
Right? I know for me, I mean, I've obviously started to dabble a little bit in trying to understand the concept of writing a comic, but I literally have no earthly idea. And as I've told Seek, I actually have an awesome concept for a Batman story involving the return of the Phantasm from the '93 series, and the story actually involves Bruce and Andrea having a daughter that Bruce doesn't know about, who seeks vengeance on her father for quote unquote leaving her.
I would love to read that.
And I have a lot of the notes down and stuff, man, and I'm actually going to probably start to translate and try to write Marvel method, because I kind of understand that concept a little bit better, the blocking of things, panel by panel. But if I were to give my ideas and my passion for this story to any team to tweak and to make better, the writer would be Scott Snyder, hands down. He's just one of my favorite writers. He writes from a place, especially with the Batman character, that I really feel he just genuinely connects with. And then another guy who actually is all about Batman, I'd have Jim Lee draw it, because it's fucking Jim Lee, you know?
Jim Lee.
Like, the end. He's my favorite comic book artist of all time. Well, I take that back, because a couple of my friends are comic artists, so I probably shouldn't say that. Sorry, Corey Hampshire. Don't hate me for saying that, but you know, yeah, I think that'd be the story I'd tell, man. And ultimately, I've always said it's a 4-book miniseries called Batman's Daughter, and it has a lot of really dark concepts. It has to deal with someone who is a sociopath, and twisting and conniving your way into any situation, and essentially trying to one up the Batman. So
I would buy that, man.
Okay, well, cool. Maybe I'll send you some notes or something. Shit. You know more about this stuff than I do, you know? But when I was thinking about the final question of the week this week, it was like, what do I do? Like, last time I think I asked if you could, I asked my buddy Nick, who was on, if you could pick any superhero story to write, what would you write, or what comic series would you take over, or what have you. And the week before, we talked about giving people powers. If you had the ability to give people powers, what kind of powers would you give people, and why? But this week I felt, you know, we're digging into you as a person, and how your literal, again, journey into comics happened. So for me, it was like, why not ask the question of questions? If you can set up an all-star team to knock something out of the park, what is it? And you definitely brought it, man. So I'm very happy. This was an absolutely great episode. I want to thank Ben again. Ben, thank you so much for coming on, man. It was an absolute blast.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And, as I said, we're super easygoing and loosey-goosey, so don't feel worried that you had to go fix a car earlier today, because I'm sure that was fun.
Oh, yeah. It's always fun.
Excellent. All right, guys. Well, again, you can check out Ben's stuff at Warriors Innkeeper. Am I saying that? Or Warrior Innkeepers?
Warrior Innkeeper.
Warrior Innkeeper, no S.
No S.
Okay.
WarriorInnkeeper.com or WarriorInnkeeper.com/Kickstarter.
We'll take you to your Kickstarter.
And shows you my cool stuff. My website is a couple years old and desperate need of updating, so please forgive me for that.
And then do you have like an Instagram or you said you had Twitter, but you don't really tweet?
I am on Twitter at Warrior Innkeeper. No E at the end, so
Keep R.
Yeah, keep R. There we go. Warrior Innkeep R. They won't let me put my full name. It's one letter too long.
Ridiculous. That's why we're JIC Podcast on fucking Twitter, is because Journey into Comics is like 3 letters too long. I'm like, really? Come on. Yeah, fuck.
We also have Black Suit of Death tweets in character at BLK Suit of Death. Edward writes those, and they are often hilarious. I knew my friend was funny, but I didn't know he was that funny, is how I kind of feel about some of the in-character tweets that he's doing.
Kind of breaking out of his shell through Twitter.
Yeah. He's way more introverted than me, too, so it's awesome.
Excellent. That's the way to connect, man. Well, dude, it was super awesome. Again, I can't thank you enough for being a part of this episode, coming on, telling us about Black Suit of Death. Guys, make sure to check out everything Ben's doing. Make sure to go to his Kickstarter, give him money. Let's get them to their goal. Let's get this book out, because it's going to be fucking amazing when it does come out. And then hopefully a major publisher sees it and goes, okay, this is something we need to be printing. And then from there, it's all it's all history. Let's hope.
Right.
So, as always, I'm your host Nate, and we'll see you guys next time. Later.